on, friends? My name is Kaylee. Welcome back to the Honeystead. If you guys are new here, I do a little bit of everything here on our homestead. Today I'm flying solo. My mom snuck off and went on vacation, which was much needed for her. But I actually have Moose and Macy with me. Actually, they left me. Just kidding. Anyways, my pups are with me. We are doing some foraging. Last year I came down these trails and I found this massive tree that's behind me completely covered with chicken of the woods. Now, I harvested just a little bit, but I left a good bit in hopes that this year, when it's time, we are going to grow an entire log of chicken of the woods. It's still a little bit early, but with the amount of rain and the humidity that we've had here in Virginia, I am very surprised that I am not finding an abundance of mushrooms, but it's still a little early. But I guess that's all part of foraging because you just never know what you're gonna find. And yeah, it keeps you wanting to come back out and see what's going on. On hot days like this, I try not to run my dogs as hot and heavy earlier in the day. I kind of wait until like later in the evening that we do a nice good run. But because they're with me, we are also going to take them to the creek and let them cool off because I know that there's a bunch of things that we can forage for by the creek. As I was driving around, I saw a beautiful mullein plant that was right along the outside of my pastures. Now, this mullein plant is a second-year mullein plant, which means it is going to flower, going to seed. So I went ahead and harvested a few of the flowers, and I know that there's a bunch more, so we're going to collect a little bit more mullein as we go and ride around the property. Now, we use the mullein plant multiple different ways. So I mainly use the leaves from a first-year mullein plant, and that's what we use as an expectorant. So anything respiratory, anything that you need to get up and get out, I've made it in a tea form. We can make it in a tincture form. I also chop it up and infuse the leaves, the fresh leaves, in raw honey as well. But the flowers today, like what we're collecting, the flowers are what I'm looking for, because I realized after going through my herbal first aid kit, I realized that I was out of mullein flower oil, which is what we use to drop into our ears, especially if we're out swimming and, you know, we have that earache or a little bit of even ear infection. So I took a pause to let the pups swim and cool off, and then we're gonna go around and see if I can find any more mullein flowers, harvest them, and we'll head back to the apothecary and go ahead and set up an oil. Come on, buddy. So the other day Macy got sprayed by a skunk for the very first time, and if you guys have ever had any dogs that have been sprayed by a skunk, anytime they get wet they smell like skunk. So it's gonna be a fun ride back, but I'm cooling off as well because it is hot, and there's something about being barefoot in a creek that just brings back all of my childhood memories. We used to call it creek walking, where we would literally hang out in the creek pretty much all summer long and flip over rocks and look for crawdads. That was one of my favorite things to do, and I still do it. And sometimes we can get some really big crawdads in this creek, and my son is actually He has actually made it a thing that he will go and gather the crawdads, and I have found him cooking them up over an open fire. So at least I know my kids can survive. But there's something special about this creek that I haven't really shared, and I'm hoping that in the next, my goal, one of the goals, and I know I might have shared this in a video before in the past, but this creek holds two special stones, and I'm going to get better at it. One of them is flint. Now this creek is a natural, like naturally has flint in it. I believe I have found flint in the past, but I'm going to get better. Like I said, that's a goal of mine. And then the other, ooh, slipped. The other thing that this creek has is a special type of jasper. So that's a goal of mine while we're down here cooling off, letting the dogs play. I almost could just literally jump in all honesty. It is that hot. But yeah, that's a goal of mine that I plan on trying to find, is the special jasper and the natural flint, so that we could in turn you know, learn how to start our own fire with flint that we find here on the property. So yeah, that's a goal. That was definitely a nice little break from the heat to get into the creek, but we're gonna go find a few more of the mullein flowers so we can go back to the apothecary and finish, or else I'd probably stay down here for the rest of the day. But I think the dogs are gonna move now. Now that they're cooled down enough, I'm gonna let them run. Looking for smaller jars, but all I have here are these little amber colored jars that I use for like my salves and small like electuaries. But all we're gonna do is we're just going to put the flowers in the jar. Now, over the time of me picking this, they definitely wilted a little bit. So if you are in like a super humid location, I would probably say go ahead and let your flowers wilt a little bit. I don't want to wash these flowers, mainly because we did just have like a massive rainstorm yesterday. It was like a gully washer. But if I wash them now, it's probably not best to put your oil in it while your flowers are nice and wet, because that would only kind of promote a unhealthy environment to where your oil that you're going to use, which I'm going to use extra virgin olive oil that's been cold pressed. That tends to be like my go-to, just because it's fairly easy to come by. But you don't want to mix moisture in with your oil. So what you can do is you can let your flowers wilt a little bit. The other thing that's nice is if you do happen to have little buggies on your flowers, when you lay them out and let them wilt a little bit, a lot of the bugs are going to go away. So after a month of letting this sit, really you can use it even sooner than that. I've used it like 2 weeks sooner when I've needed it. But you're going to strain it out just like you would with a tincture, to separate the flowers from the oil. And then you're left with just a rich infused oil that I put in little dropper bottles that are roughly this size. I believe these are 1 ounce, which I don't know if this is the right lid. Yeah. So I'll put it in these little dropper bottles, and then after I will take it and I will just drop a few drops in each ear, and that has definitely been helpful. I'm going to make a huge mess. Where's my tray? Oh, look at me, guys. I'm actually not making that big of a mess. Be proud. That's actually good stuff. So this ratio is probably close to like 1 to 2, 1 part flour to 2 parts of the oil, which might be a little bit strong, but I plan on actually going and collecting a little bit more so that I can have 3 batches of this. 1 for my house, 1 for the apothecary, and 1 for my mom and dad's house as well. So as the flowers bloom, I will go and I will continue to harvest and then add it all together, so that by the end of this, I'm gonna have like a nice, decent size, like a jelly jar, a pint size, I think would be, or a half a pint even. But that's kind of the goal that I'm going for, so we can have enough for everybody's house. But this is gonna sit. I don't actually seal this, especially because the flowers are a little bit still damp, even though I let them wilt just a little bit. I'm gonna actually take a piece of cheesecloth and I'm gonna cut it to size, and then I'm just gonna secure it on top of this and then store this in a cool, dark space for up to a month, and then strain it out. And then that is where we'll go ahead and put it in these little bottles and then distribute it throughout the communal living on this family homestead. Now, if you are concerned about the humidity, you could actually take your olive oil and your flowers and put it in a jar and then rest it in like a slow cooker on warm, and add water to it. And that little bit of warmth will help kind of speed the process up. I have a little bit of time and I don't need it quite yet, so I went ahead and just stored it in a cool, dark space in one of the cabinets here in the apothecary, and I'll make sure to check on it every day or so and just kind of give it a little stir. Now, it's also really important to label what you make so that you're not guessing in about 30 days. I know I'm not going to forget what that is, because it's the only jar and the only flour that I have specifically in oil right now. Now, it's also really important to make sure that you label what you are making so that you are not playing this wonderful herbal game that we like to play sometimes, which is called herbal roulette. That's not always fun, but it's a good idea to make sure to label and date what you are making with what, when did you make it, so that you can always reference back and know when to press it out. That being said, sometimes things happen, and you know, if you let it sit for just a little bit longer, once the things have been extracted, you're good. You know, just strain it out when you need it. But as with every single herb that I share, it's also really important to just do your own research and make sure that that plant is right for you. I think it only is going to help make you a better herbalist. I also have some really exciting news about the book that I have coming out. It is getting ready to go to print. I have been so excited, and maybe on one of the next videos I'll give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek. But the book is all about becoming your own herbalist, and it's from here, from the plants that we have growing, from the plants that we have foraged, from the plants that we have sourced, but the goal is to teach people how to become their own herbalist from the beekeeper's apothecary. So I'll make sure to put the QR code right up here so that you guys can take a look at it. Pre-orders are still available right now. There's also a few fun extras that you can get from the pre-orders, so I'll make sure to add that in there. But yeah, I'm excited. So maybe on the next video we'll do a quick sneak peek. But as always, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and learn something old. Bye guys.